She had lived long enough in that little western town to know how cruel whispers could be, and how quickly laughter carried through the dusty streets when it was aimed at someone who never quite belonged. Eliza May, with her tangle of auburn hair, her patched-up skirts, and the scars of loneliness etched on her spirit, had grown used to being the girl no one asked to dance, the one no cowboy tipped his hat toward, the one standing by the well when others walked by without a word. Tonight, as the townsfolk gathered under strings of banners for the annual gathering, she felt the familiar burn of dread rising in her chest. There was always some jest at her expense, some sly comment made loud enough for her to hear, and though she kept her chin high, her heart was weary of the wait. The auction of dances was a tradition meant to raise money for the schoolhouse, with young women standing before the crowd, waiting to see who might bid for the honor of a waltz. Eliza told herself she wouldn't mind if no one called her name. If no hand rose for her, better to stand invisible than to face the humiliation of silence. She clasped her hands tightly in front of her, trying not to notice how quickly the other girls were chosen, smiling, laughing, blushing as coins exchanged hands and strong arms led them into the circle. Then came her name. For the briefest moment, time hung still. She could hear the shuffle of boots, the low murmur of voices, and then nothing. No one stepped forward, no hand lifted, no bid made. A chuckle rippled through the crowd, one that grew bolder with each passing second, until the shameful sound seemed to claw at her very skin. Her cheeks burned, her eyes stung, and she felt herself shrinking, wishing she could dissolve into the dust. But before the laughter could swell, a deep voice cut through the air like the crack of a whip. "I'll ask for her," the cowboy said, and the crowd turned as one. He wasn't a man most in town knew well. Dark-haired, broad-shouldered, with the kind of quiet strength that didn't need proving. He had only ridden in a few months back, taking up work on the outskirts. His name was Colt Bennett, though few dared to speak it too casually, for there was something in his eyes that suggested he carried more miles of hard living than he let on. Now, those same eyes softened as they rested on Eliza. He stepped forward, placing his coins down with a solid clink, then held out his hand, steady and certain. "If no one else has the sense to see her worth," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the square, "then I'll be proud too." Silence fell heavy and thick, and for once it was not Eliza standing in shame, but the townsfolk who shifted uncomfortably under the weight of their own cruelty. Slowly, almost disbelieving, Eliza lifted her gaze to him. He wasn't mocking her. There was no pity in his eyes, no jest in his tone, only truth. She felt something stir in her chest that had been quiet too long, hope. She placed her trembling hand in his, and he pulled her gently into the circle. The music struck up, fiddles and guitars weaving through the air, but for Eliza, the world had narrowed to the strength of his hand around hers, the steadiness of his steps guiding her, and the warmth of his presence shielding her from the eyes that had once judged her. "You don't have to do this," she whispered, her voice barely carrying above the music. His lips curved into a half-smile. "I didn't have to. I wanted to. Sometimes the best choices are the ones nobody else has the courage to make." Her throat tightened, her eyes shining, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she let herself laugh, a sound light and unbroken, rising above the fiddle's song. Around them, the crowd watched, but it no longer mattered. The whispers no longer pierced her. The laughter no longer defined her, because one man had seen her, chosen her, before all the town could laugh. And in his eyes, she realized she had never been invisible at all. That night, as the stars scattered like diamonds over the prairie, Eliza knew her story had changed forever. She wasn't the forgotten girl anymore. She was the one a cowboy had chosen with certainty, the one who had found her worth in the reflection of a man brave, enough to speak when others stayed silent. And maybe, just maybe, the town would think twice before laughing again. But even if they didn't, she knew she'd remember this moment, this dance, this cowboy who had lifted her out of the shadows with nothing more than truth and kindness. And to every soul listening now, take this story as a reminder that you are never too small to be chosen. never too forgotten to be seen, and sometimes all it takes is one person to change the course of your life. If you believe in love that defies laughter and in hope that rises above cruelty, then stay with us here, because more stories like this are waiting for you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you'll never miss another tale of courage, love, and second chances, because just like Eliza, your story might be the one worth telling next.